I hired a babysitter, and she saved my child's life. I never thought much about babysitters. To me, they were just teenagers looking for extra cash, someone to watch my 6-year-old son, Liam, for a few hours while I worked late shifts. That was until I met Emily. Emily was different. She wasn't a teenager. She was in her early 20s, responsible, and had a calm, almost intuitive way with kids. Liam took to her immediately. I hired her on the spot, relieved to have found someone reliable. That Friday night, I left Emily in charge while I attended an important business dinner. Everything seemed fine when I left. Liam was watching his favorite dinosaur cartoon, and Emily was sitting nearby, flipping through a book. I had no idea that within the hour she would be fighting to save my child's life. Around 8:30 p.m., Emily decided it was time for Liam to brush his teeth and get ready for bed. He ran to the bathroom like always, laughing and playing along the way. But just as Emily stood to follow him, she heard a loud thud. Her heart stopped. "Liam?" she called, rushing toward the bathroom. No answer. Then she heard a strange gurgling sound. Panic surged through her as she pushed the door open. Liam was lying on the floor, convulsing, his little face turning pale. His lips were blue. He was choking. Emily acted fast. Dropping to her knees, she turned him over and pounded his back. Nothing. He was still struggling. She realized it must have been something small, something he swallowed. Maybe toothpaste? A toy? She didn't know, but she couldn't waste another second. Lifting him onto her lap, she positioned her hands and performed the Heimlich maneuver, just as she had learned in her babysitting safety course. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Liam's body was going limp. Tears blurred Emily's vision, but she refused to give up. She tried again, pressing harder this time. And then, a small plastic cap shot out of his mouth, clattering onto the floor. Liam gasped for air. His tiny chest rose and fell in deep, shuddering breaths. Color returned to his cheeks. He was crying. Thank God he was crying. Emily cradled him against her, shaking as much as he was. But he was alive. When I came home an hour later, I found Emily on the couch, still holding Liam, who was drowsy but safe. When she told me what had happened, I dropped to my knees and hugged them both. I didn't even want to think about what could have happened if Emily hadn't been there, if she hadn't known what to do. That night, as I tucked Liam into bed, he held my hand tightly. "Emily saved me, Mommy," he whispered. I looked at Emily, my eyes filled with gratitude. "She's not just a babysitter," I said. "She's a hero." And from that moment on, I knew I could never trust just anyone with my child. Because sometimes the right babysitter isn't just someone who watches over your kid. Sometimes they save their life. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined what could have happened if Emily hadn't been there. If she had panicked. If she had frozen. If she hadn't known how to do the Heimlich maneuver. I kept checking on Liam, who was fast asleep, his little chest rising and falling peacefully. But my mind was racing. Around midnight, I walked into the living room where Emily was still sitting on the couch, staring at the floor. "Emily," I said softly. She looked up and I could see she had been crying. "I just keep thinking, what if I hadn't gotten it out in time?" she whispered. I sat down beside her and took her hand. "But you did," I said firmly. "You saved him, Emily. That's what matters." She nodded, but I could tell the weight of the night still sat heavy on her. "I don't know how to thank you," I continued. "I don't even have the words." "You don't have to," she said with a small smile. "I just did what anyone should do." But I knew better. Not everyone would have stayed so calm. Not everyone would have known what to do. And not everyone would have been there just in time. A few days later, after the shock had settled, I invited Emily over again. Not as a babysitter, but as a friend. Liam wouldn't stop talking about her, calling her his superhero. Over coffee, I asked her how she had stayed so calm that night. She hesitated, then sighed. It's not the first time I've been in that situation, she admitted. I frowned. What do you mean? She stared at her mug, running a finger along the rim. When I was little, my younger brother choked on a piece of hard candy, she said quietly. I was only 9. I didn't know what to do. And by the time my mom got to him, it was too late. A chill ran down my spine. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to save someone, I would, she said. So when I started babysitting, I took every first aid course I could. I never wanted to feel helpless again. Tears welled in my eyes. Emily wasn't just a hero. She was someone who had turned her own pain into a purpose. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Your brother would be so proud of you. She smiled, though her eyes were glassy with emotion. I hope so. After that night, Emily became more than just a babysitter. She became family. Liam adored her, and I trusted her more than anyone. Whenever I needed help, she was there. Not just as someone to watch Liam, but as a friend, a sister, and a guardian angel in disguise. One day, Liam came running into the kitchen, grinning from ear to ear. Mommy, I drew a picture. He held up a crayon drawing of a stick figure with a red cape. It's Emily, he announced proudly. She's my superhero. Emily laughed, ruffling his hair. I think you're my hero, buddy. I smiled, knowing that fate had brought Emily into our lives for a reason. She wasn't just a babysitter. She was a lifesaver. And for that, I would be forever grateful. Months passed, and Emily remained an important part of our lives. She babysat Liam regularly, but more than that, she became family. We had dinners together, went to the park as a trio, and celebrated birthdays and small victories. Liam adored her in a way I'd never seen before. He would draw pictures of them together, call her his bestest friend, and even ask if she could move in with us. But then, one evening, Emily came over with a hesitant look on her face. I need to talk to you, she said as I poured her a cup of tea. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Something about her tone made me uneasy. She took a deep breath. I got accepted into a paramedic training program. It starts next month. I blinked in surprise, then felt my chest swell with admiration. Emily, that's amazing, I exclaimed. You're going to be incredible at it. She smiled but glanced down at her hands. It means I'll have to cut back on babysitting, and eventually I'll have to leave. The words hit harder than I expected. It was selfish, I knew, but the thought of losing her presence in our lives stung. Liam, who had been playing with his dinosaur toys on the floor, suddenly looked up. You're leaving? His little voice was filled with confusion. Emily bit her lip. Not right away, buddy, but I have to go learn how to help more people, just like I helped you. Tears welled in Liam's eyes. But you're my superhero. Emily reached out and pulled him into a hug. I'll always be your superhero, she whispered, and you'll always be my favorite sidekick. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You're going to save so many lives, Emily, just like you saved Liam's. She nodded, her eyes glistening. I just hope I can make a difference. You already have, I said. More than you know. Over the next few weeks, we made the most of our time together. We threw Emily a surprise farewell party with a cake decorated like an ambulance. Liam made her a scrapbook filled with drawings and photos of their adventures. And then, the day came. We stood by her packed car, Liam clutching her hand tightly. Promise you'll come visit? He asked, his voice small. Emily crouched to his level and smiled. I pinky promise. He held out his tiny pinky and she hooked hers around his. And you have to send me pictures of your drawings, okay? He nodded vigorously. Then, she stood up and pulled me into a tight hug. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. No, thank you, I said, my voice shaking. For saving my son, for being part of our family. She wiped her eyes, then climbed into her car. As she drove away, Liam waved until she was out of sight. Life moved on, but Emily was never far from our thoughts. We video called her every week. Liam would show off his latest dinosaur drawings, and she'd tell us about her training, how she had saved someone from choking during her first aid practice. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Emily. It was a photo of her in her paramedic uniform, grinning from ear to ear. First official day as a paramedic. Can't wait to visit soon. Miss you guys. I showed Liam the picture, and he beamed. She's a real superhero now. I smiled, hugging him close. She always was. And deep down, I knew. Emily hadn't just saved Liam's life that night. She had found her purpose, and in doing so, she had changed all of our lives forever. A year passed since Emily left for her paramedic training, but she was never truly gone from our lives. She kept in touch, sending messages and photos from her shifts. Some heartbreaking, some inspiring. Every time Liam saw a speeding ambulance, he would point and say, "Maybe that's Emily." Then, one evening, something unexpected happened. It was a stormy night. Rain lashed against the windows and thunder rumbled in the distance. Liam and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie when my phone rang. It was Emily. But instead of her usual cheerful greeting, she spoke in a hurried, urgent voice. "I'm on my way to your neighborhood," she said. "There's been an accident nearby. A major one, multiple injuries. The roads are bad and emergency response is delayed." My heart pounded. "Wait, you're here? Right now?" "Yes. And I need a favor." "Of course. Anything." There was a brief pause before she spoke again. "We need a place to stabilize a patient while we wait for another ambulance. Can I bring them to your house?" I didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. I'll unlock the door now." I hung up, already moving. Liam looked up at me, sensing my urgency. "What's wrong, Mommy?" "Emily's coming," I said, grabbing towels and blankets. "She needs our help." His face lit up. "She's coming here?" "Yes, sweetheart, but she's bringing someone who's hurt, so I need you to be brave and stay out of the way, okay?" Liam nodded solemnly. Minutes later, headlights flashed through the storm. I ran to the door just as Emily and another paramedic helped a man inside. He was bleeding from his forehead, his arm bent awkwardly. "Car accident," Emily explained as they gently eased him onto my couch. "He's stable, but we need to keep him warm and monitor his breathing until transport arrives." I nodded, grabbing the supplies. As I handed Emily a towel to clean the man's wounds, I couldn't help but notice the way she worked. Confident, steady, and in control. She had changed. She wasn't just a babysitter anymore. She was a lifesaver. As they worked, Liam peeked around the corner, eyes wide with awe. He wasn't scared. He was proud. When the second ambulance finally arrived, Emily turned to me with a tired but grateful smile. "You just turned your living room into an emergency room," she joked. I exhaled, shaking my head. "I'll do anything for my hero." She laughed, but I meant every word. After the patient was safely transported, Emily stayed a little longer. We sipped tea in the kitchen, listening to the rain. "This feels full circle," I said. "A year ago, you saved Liam's life here. Now you're out saving the world." Emily smiled, stirring her tea. "You know, I think saving Liam saved me too." Liam suddenly ran into the kitchen, holding a drawing. "Look, Emily, it's you." She took the picture and gasped. It was a crayon drawing of an ambulance, with her in the driver's seat wearing a cape. Above it, in big letters, Liam had written, "Emily, superhero of the whole world." Emily's eyes shimmered. She pulled Liam into a hug, then looked at me. "I may be out there helping people," she said softly, "but you guys will always be home to me." And I knew, no matter where life took her, Emily would always be part of our family. This gives the story a powerful full circle moment, showing how Emily has grown while keeping her bond with Liam and his mother. Let me know if you'd like another continuation or any changes. A few months after Emily's last visit, life returned to a more predictable rhythm. Liam was thriving in school, and I was adjusting to the quiet after all the chaos with Emily's departure. I had continued with my work, and though I missed Emily's presence, I was incredibly proud of all she had achieved. One day, while I was tidying up the kitchen, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Emily. Hey, just checking in. How's Liam doing? Can I ask a favor? My heart skipped. It had been a while since I'd heard from her personally, and her request seemed a bit more urgent than usual. I quickly typed back, everything's good. Liam's excited to show you his new dinosaur drawings next time. What's up? Her reply was almost immediate. I need your help again. There's been a major emergency. The hospital's overwhelmed. Can I count on you? A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. I didn't even hesitate. Of course, what do you need? A few moments later, the details came in. There had been a massive pileup on the highway near our town. Multiple victims. Emily was coordinating with the other paramedics, but there was more work than they could manage, and the hospital couldn't keep up with the incoming patients. Emily needed me to take in a patient, someone who had been stabilized but still required care until the hospital could manage them. The storm had worsened, and the roads were closed. I quickly glanced over at Liam, who was playing in the next room. My son, my heart. I called him over. Sweetheart, Emily might need us again. There's someone who needs our help. He looked up, his eyes serious. Are we going to save someone? I smiled softly, touched by his bravery. Yes, we are. Just like we did before. But this time, we need to be extra careful. Liam nodded with determination. I could see his little heart swelling with pride, just as mine was. Emily arrived a short time later, her paramedic uniform drenched in the rain. She wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a middle-aged woman who had been involved in the accident. She was conscious, but clearly in pain, her leg badly injured. Emily and the other paramedics had done their best to stabilize her, but she was still in need of urgent care. This is Gina. Emily introduced her softly. She's stable, but she'll need medical supplies until we can get her to the hospital. I nodded, helping Emily guide Gina into the living room, where I'd prepared a space for her. Liam quietly followed, offering his hand to Gina with a shy smile. Are you okay? Liam asked softly. Gina smiled weakly. I will be, sweetheart. I just need to rest a little. Emily and I worked quickly, setting up an IV, checking her vitals, and making sure she was comfortable. The whole time, Liam hovered nearby, asking questions, keeping Gina company, and offering her his blanket when she shivered. I had never been so proud of my son. As I assisted Emily with the patient, I couldn't help but marvel at how far Emily had come. The calm confidence in her eyes, her ability to manage chaos, her deep care for the people she helped. It was like a new Emily, a hero in every sense of the word. Do you ever get scared? I asked quietly as we worked together. She looked up from her patient, her face softening. I did, in the beginning. A lot. But when you've seen what can happen when you don't act fast enough, you don't get scared anymore. You just move. You just help. I could tell she was talking about more than just her job. She was talking about herself, the girl who had once been too afraid to save her brother, now becoming the person who saved countless others. By the time the second ambulance arrived to transport Gina to the hospital, the rain had slowed. Emily was exhausted, but she had a peaceful look on her face. Thank you, she said, pulling me into a tight hug. You don't know how much this means. You saved her life, I replied, holding her close. You are the hero. Emily stepped back, her eyes glistening. I couldn't have done it without you. Without you believing in me, even when I wasn't sure of myself. I squeezed her hand. We believe in you, Emily. Always have. Liam, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, suddenly ran over and hugged Emily's legs. I knew you were going to save her, he said, his voice full of admiration. Emily bent down and ruffled his hair. You were my biggest cheerleader, buddy. Thank you for being so brave. Will you come back and visit? Liam asked eagerly. Of course, Emily promised, kissing him on the top of the head. You'll always be my little sidekick. As Emily left, I stood by the door, feeling the weight of everything she had given us. She was no longer just a babysitter. She had become a force of nature, a woman who transformed the pain of her past into a mission of saving lives. And in that moment, I realized something. She wasn't just our hero anymore. She was the hero of the world. This continuation brings Emily's journey full circle, showing her strength as a paramedic and her lasting bond with Liam and his mother. Let me know if you'd like any further changes or additions. It had been a few months since Emily's latest visit, and life had settled into a familiar rhythm. But things weren't the same anymore. For one, Liam had started asking more questions about heroes. Not just the ones in his favorite cartoons or storybooks, but real heroes. The ones who put their lives on the line every day to help others. And more often than not, he was talking about Emily. I'd never been more proud of him. "Mom, do you think I could be a superhero like Emily?" he asked one evening as we were winding down for bed. My heart swelled. "I think you already are, sweetheart," I said, tucking him in. A superhero doesn't have to wear a cape or have superpowers. A hero is someone who helps others, no matter what. Liam smiled, his eyes closing sleepily. "Like Emily, right?" "Exactly," I whispered, kissing his forehead. I didn't realize it then, but those words would stay with Liam for a long time. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected call. It was from Emily, and she sounded different. Tense, distracted. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked, a pang of concern rising in my chest. "Hey, yeah, things are fine. Actually, no, it's not. I need your help again." Her voice faltered slightly, which was unlike her. "Anything, Emily. You know I've got your back." There was a brief pause before she spoke again, her voice steady but urgent. "I'm heading out on a major rescue mission tomorrow. It's a big one. Multiple casualties, potentially hazardous conditions. I've been asked to lead a team to a remote area. The thing is, they're short on personnel and they need someone experienced to back us up on site." I felt a surge of fear. "You want me to help?" "Yeah," she said quietly. "I know it's asking a lot, but I trust you. You've been through this with me before, and I need someone who can handle pressure. Someone who knows how to keep a level head. Would you do it?" I paused, my thoughts racing. I had always supported Emily, but this was bigger than anything I'd ever done before. "I'll do it," I said firmly, my voice resolute. "When do we leave?" The next morning, I met Emily and her team at the local emergency services headquarters. I had no idea what I was getting into. The operation was classified as a search and rescue mission, and the conditions were dire. A series of wildfires had cut off entire communities from access to medical care, and the number of injured civilians was rising. As we made our way to the site, I couldn't help but notice the look of determination on Emily's face. She was always calm under pressure, but today there was an edge to her, a quiet resolve that told me she was preparing for something major. As we hiked toward the affected area, I thought about Liam, about how he looked up to Emily as his superhero. I had always admired her, but today, I was seeing a side of her I'd never truly understood. The side that didn't just save lives, but was willing to risk everything for others. When we reached the perimeter, the chaos hit. There were injured people everywhere, their faces pale, their bodies covered in soot. Emily immediately took charge, coordinating her team with military precision. I helped as best as I could, assisting in stabilizing victims, handing over medical supplies, and comforting the injured. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. There were moments when the pressure seemed insurmountable. But every time I looked to Emily, she was right there, leading the way, never wavering. It wasn't until we were near the edge of the perimeter, helping evacuate a family from a collapsed home, that I realized something. I wasn't just helping for the sake of others. I was doing this because Emily had shown me how. She had shown me what it meant to be strong, to rise to the occasion, to not flinch in the face of disaster. As I carried a child to safety, the ground beneath us shook violently, and a nearby structure crumbled. Emily's team immediately sprang into action, securing the area. "Move back," Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone clear the way. In that moment, I felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just Emily's mission. It was ours. We managed to evacuate everyone safely. It was a long, grueling process, and by the time the operation ended, the sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the horizon. We had saved dozens of lives, but there was no time to relax. Emily's team had already begun their debrief, preparing for the next step. I stood off to the side, reflecting on the day. I had seen the true meaning of heroism, the kind that didn't need recognition, that didn't need fame. It was the kind of heroism that came from the quiet strength of someone who put others first, no matter the cost. And I knew now that I wasn't just proud of Emily because she saved Liam that night. I was proud of her because she had taught me how to be brave, how to face fear, how to rise above when it mattered most. When I called Liam that evening, his voice was excited, but I could hear the concern in his words. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm okay, buddy," I said, smiling. And guess what? I was part of a rescue mission today, just like Emily. There was a long pause before Liam spoke again. "Did you save anyone?" I thought about the hundreds of lives we had touched today, the ones that had been saved, the ones we'd helped carry to safety. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "We saved a lot of people today, just like Emily would." As I closed my eyes, I realized something. I hadn't just learned how to help others from Emily. I had learned how to be a hero too. And that made me believe that no matter the journey ahead, we would always have the strength to face it. Together. This continuation focuses on how Emily's influence not only transforms her life, but inspires others, including the narrator, to rise to the occasion. It's a story of personal growth, heroism, and lasting connections. Let me know what you think or if you'd like more to explore. The rescue mission had come to a close, but the impact of that day lingered in my heart. I returned home, weary but content, knowing I had faced something bigger than myself and emerged stronger. What I hadn't realized was how deeply that experience would shape me, and how it would ripple out into my relationship with Liam and the community. As the weeks passed, Liam seemed different, more confident, more aware of the world around him. We'd always talked about heroes, but now he understood them on a deeper level. He'd often ask about Emily and her work, imagining her as some sort of mystical figure, larger than life. "Mom, do you think I could help people like Emily when I grow up?" he asked one afternoon, his voice filled with determination. I smiled, remembering my own doubts before this journey. "I know you will, sweetheart. You've got a big heart, just like Emily." But then, one day, something happened that made me realize just how far-reaching Emily's influence had gone. It was late afternoon, and I was picking Liam up from school when I received a call from the principal. My stomach dropped as I listened. "Mrs. Thompson, I wanted to inform you that there's been a minor incident at school. Nothing serious, but we thought you should know." "Is Liam okay?" I asked, panic rising. "Oh, yes, he's perfectly fine. It's just that..." Well, Liam's class had been learning about emergency preparedness today. The kids had been talking about what they'd do in an emergency. Apparently, your son was quite passionate about what he learned. A feeling of unease washed over me as I imagined what my little boy could have said. "What exactly did he do?" The principal chuckled lightly. Liam stood up in front of the whole class and gave a very thorough, very confident explanation of how to help someone in need. He talked about the importance of staying calm and acting fast, just like his superhero, Emily. My heart swelled with pride and surprise. I didn't know he'd been thinking about that so much. "Well, you'd be proud," the principal continued. "He even had the whole class practicing how to safely call 911 and make sure the person gets help. He said, 'You have to stay brave, just like Emily does.'" When I picked Liam up, his face was glowing. "Mom, did you hear? I told everyone about Emily. I want to be a superhero like her." Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged him tightly. "You already are, Liam. You always have been." A few months later, Emily came back to visit, and this time she didn't come alone. She brought with her a surprise, Her paramedic team, who were launching a new community initiative called Heroes for a Day, aimed at teaching kids about emergency preparedness and how they could contribute to the safety of those around them. When Liam saw Emily walk through the door, his eyes lit up. "Emily, you're back." She smiled, crouching to his level. "I never really left, buddy. I'm just here to show you how you can help people too." That afternoon, Emily led a small class for the kids in our neighborhood. Liam, who had been so passionate about helping others, took charge in his own quiet way. As Emily talked about CPR, first aid, and basic emergency response, Liam shared what he'd learned at school, explaining how heroes didn't always have to wear capes or uniforms. They just had to care. Watching Liam, I realized something important. Emily had started a movement. It wasn't just about saving lives in the traditional sense. It was about empowering people to take action, no matter how small. Emily had given Liam, and all the kids who met her, the belief that they could make a difference. And in doing so, she had created a ripple effect that was spreading across our community. "Mom," Liam said later that evening, his voice filled with wonder, "I think I know what I want to do when I grow up." "What's that, buddy?" "I want to be a hero, just like Emily. I want to help people and teach them how to help others too. Maybe even save lives." My heart soared as I looked at my son. "I have no doubt you'll be amazing at it." Months turned into years, and Emily's influence continued to shape not only Liam's future, but our entire community. She had inspired a new generation of kids who knew the importance of being prepared, being kind, and being brave. Many of them went on to join volunteer programs, some pursuing careers in healthcare, and others simply making sure their neighbors were safe. As for Liam, his dream didn't fade. He worked hard in school, focusing on science, health, and community service. He spent hours with me, learning first aid, reading about medicine, and imagining his own path toward becoming a paramedic, just like Emily. One day, when Liam was old enough, Emily came back to town for a visit. Liam was now a young teenager, standing tall and confident, with that same look of determination I'd seen in him years ago. "Hey, Emily," Liam said with a grin. "I've been learning everything I can about first aid and emergency response. I want to be a paramedic, just like you." Emily's eyes softened with pride. "I knew you would, kiddo. I can't think of anyone better for the job." As they stood there, talking about the future, I realized that the hero's legacy wasn't just carried in the lives she had saved. It was carried in the lives of those she had touched. In the end, Emily had done more than just save one life. She had created a movement, passed down her knowledge, and sparked the courage in others to carry her torch forward. And that, to me, was the greatest gift of all. This continuation follows the ripple effect of Emily's influence on Liam and the broader community, showing how her heroism has inspired others to become heroes in their own right. Let me know what you think, or if you'd like more added. Years had passed since Emily's heroic influence had reshaped not just Liam's life, but the entire community's understanding of what it meant to be a hero. Liam had grown into a young man, determined and driven, with a heart full of compassion and a mind focused on helping others. He was no longer just following in Emily's footsteps. He was creating his own path, inspired by the lessons she had taught him. It was his first year of college when the unexpected happened. The world as we knew it seemed to shift overnight. A major disaster struck the region. An earthquake had devastated a neighboring town, and resources were stretched thin. The devastation was unimaginable. Entire neighborhoods wiped out, roads impassable, and a staggering number of people in need of urgent medical care. The moment the news hit, Liam knew what he had to do. "I have to help," he said firmly as he watched the television coverage with me. "I can't just sit here. People need me." I could see the determination in his eyes, the same resolve I'd seen in Emily. But this time, it wasn't just about following her example. It was about carrying forward the legacy of helping others, of never backing down when there was a call to action. "Liam, you're still in school," I said, a mixture of pride and concern in my voice. "You've got your future ahead of you. But I understand. This is your moment." He didn't hesitate. "I'm going, Mom. I have to be there for the people who need us. I know what to do. Before I could even process the weight of his words, Liam had gathered his things. His backpack was packed with first aid supplies, water, and essentials, ready to go. He was no longer a young boy following his superhero. It was clear. He was the superhero now. The next few days were a blur. I watched as Liam coordinated with other students from his medical program who had also felt the call to action. They set up emergency response teams, collecting supplies and contacting local organizations. They were all working under the guidance of professionals like Emily, who had been contacted to lead a volunteer force of paramedics and first responders. Liam worked tirelessly, following Emily's example, calm in the face of danger, quick to act when others hesitated, always thinking about what needed to be done. It wasn't long before Emily arrived, not just as a leader, but as a mentor for Liam and his peers. The day Liam finally saw her again, after so long, his face lit up. "Emily, I'm here. I'm ready." Emily, now a seasoned paramedic with years of experience, looked at Liam with a knowing smile. "I see you've become the hero you always wanted to be." Liam, humbled, nodded. "I learned from the best." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're all in this together now. Just remember, stay focused. And no matter how tough it gets, keep going. People are counting on us." As the days turned into weeks, Liam, Emily, and the volunteer teams worked tirelessly in the aftermath of the earthquake. They pulled people from wreckage, provided emergency medical care, and organized shelter for those who had lost everything. Through it all, Emily and Liam stood side by side, not as mentor and student anymore, but as equals. Two heroes working toward a common goal. At one point, when the stress was beginning to wear on everyone, I received a call from Emily. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the exhaustion beneath it. "Hey, just wanted to check in. Liam's been incredible. You've raised him well. But I wanted to remind you, he's ready. He's built for this. And you should be proud of him. He's already making a real difference." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Thank you, Emily, for everything. I'm so proud of him. And I'm proud of you, too. I don't think any of us realized how much you had shaped all of us. Until now." Emily's voice softened. "Sometimes we don't see the impact we have until it's too late. But you're right. This is our legacy. A new generation of heroes is rising. And it's all because of people like you and Liam who believe in what's possible." As the crisis began to subside and the community slowly began to rebuild, Liam returned home. His body bruised, his mind weary, but his heart stronger than ever. He had witnessed the raw power of human resilience and had been a part of something bigger than himself. It had changed him, just as it had changed Emily and everyone else who had joined in. When Liam walked through the door, his shoulders were heavy with the weight of the responsibility he had carried, but there was a sense of peace in his eyes. He had done everything he could, and he had saved lives. "Mom," he said, his voice gentle. "I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I finally found my purpose. This is where I belong." I smiled, pulling him into a hug. "I knew you'd find it, Liam. I always knew you had it in you." It wasn't just Emily's influence anymore. It was the deep-rooted belief in helping others that had been passed down through generations. The legacy of heroism had taken root in Liam, in all the young people who had followed Emily's teachings, and it would continue to grow. That night, as Liam rested, I thought back to the beginning. The day I hired a babysitter. The day Emily had saved Liam's life. The little girl who had once been uncertain had grown into a woman who saved lives, who inspired others to do the same. And now, her legacy would live on through Liam and the many others who followed in their footsteps. The world had changed, but in the most beautiful way. Heroes were no longer just stories. They were real, and they were everywhere. In this continuation, we see how the impact of Emily's heroism extends into the future, not just through Liam, but through the entire community. His journey becomes the culmination of all the lessons learned, turning him into the hero he always aspired to be. Let me know if you'd like to add anything else. Years had passed since that life-altering disaster, and the world had shifted yet again. Liam had grown from a young man full of promise to a seasoned paramedic, making waves in the field of emergency response. His time working alongside Emily had set him on a path he never could have imagined back when he was a child. But it wasn't just about saving lives for Liam anymore. It was about inspiring others to step up when the world needed them most. But even heroes have their moments of doubt. And sometimes, the weight of responsibility can feel like too much to bear. One evening, months after the earthquake recovery had ended, I found Liam sitting alone on the porch, staring at the night sky. He was home for a brief break, but something was different. His usual confidence had been replaced with a quiet tension. "Hey, buddy, everything okay?" I asked, sitting down beside him. Liam looked at me, his brow furrowed. "I'm not sure, Mom. Lately, I've been feeling like I'm not doing enough. I know that sounds crazy, but after everything we've been through, I'm wondering if I'm really making a difference." My heart ached for him. He had seen so much, had done so much. But still, it wasn't enough. It never seemed enough when you were trying to save the world. You've done more than most people could ever dream of, Liam. You've saved lives, you've inspired so many, and you've shown people what true courage looks like. You are making a difference. He shook his head. "I know, but sometimes I wonder if it's just a drop in the ocean. I see all the suffering, all the things I can't fix. And then I think about Emily, how she just always knew what to do, how she always had the answers. I feel like I'm just still learning. I'm not sure I'm ready for the next step." I understood now. It wasn't that Liam doubted his abilities. It was that he had seen too much, learned too much, and felt the weight of a responsibility he hadn't asked for but had embraced nonetheless. "You're ready, Liam," I said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't need to be perfect. What Emily taught you, what you've learned, is enough. You'll never have all the answers, but you have something even more important. The heart to keep trying. And that's what matters." He nodded, though I could still see the uncertainty in his eyes. "You know, Emily once told me that being a hero isn't about knowing everything or saving everyone. It's about showing up when it counts, even when you're not sure what's going to happen next," I continued. "It's about the people you help, the way you make them feel seen and heard. That's what makes you a hero, Liam." A small smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "Thanks, Mom. I needed to hear that." I smiled back. "I know you did. You've got this. You always have." Not long after that conversation, an opportunity came knocking. An opportunity Liam couldn't ignore. A major health crisis had struck a distant region, one that had been underdeveloped and largely ignored by larger medical organizations. It was the perfect storm: an outbreak of disease, an overwhelmed healthcare system, and a lack of infrastructure. The area was in dire need of experienced medical professionals, and the call went out to those who had proven their worth in past disasters. Among the list of responders was Emily's name, but there was one more. Liam. Liam hesitated. This wasn't just another mission. It was a chance to lead. To take everything he had learned and apply it in ways that he'd never been asked to before. When he shared the news with me, I could see the conflict in his eyes. He was scared. Not for the danger, but for what this mission meant. It would stretch him beyond his limits, test him in ways he couldn't predict. But it was exactly what he had been preparing for. "Mom, this is bigger than anything I've ever done. It's terrifying. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready?" he asked, his voice tight. I looked at him and saw the man he had become. "Liam, you're not alone in this. Emily is with you. You have a team who believes in you. And most importantly, you believe in yourself. You've already done so much to make the world a better place. This is just the next step in your journey." I could see the weight lifting from his shoulders, just a little. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't." The day Liam left for the mission, it was different than the others. This time, it wasn't just a mission. It was the beginning of something much larger. Liam was no longer just the young man who had learned from Emily. He was stepping into her shoes as a leader, guiding others toward hope in a place filled with uncertainty. And Emily? She was right there beside him, supporting him, showing him that this was how heroes grew, by taking risks, by trusting themselves, and by continuing to learn even when the road ahead was unclear. Days turned into weeks, and Liam's updates were sporadic. I didn't know the full scope of what he was facing, but I knew it wasn't easy. He was fighting not only the crisis, but his own fears, stepping up in ways he hadn't imagined. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I got the call. Mom, we did it. We made it through. We saved lives and we got everyone the help they needed. It wasn't easy, but we did it. The relief in his voice brought tears to my eyes. I'm so proud of you, Liam. You did it. You led them. Liam was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, I could hear the difference in his voice. It was filled with certainty. I didn't do it alone. Emily. She taught me everything I needed to know. I just had to trust myself and trust the people around me. But now, I know. This is my calling. This is where I'm supposed to be. When Liam returned home, the community welcomed him with open arms. He had become more than just a paramedic. He had become a leader, a beacon of hope for those who had nothing left to give but their will to survive. And as for Emily, she wasn't finished yet either. She and Liam had grown into partners, each of them bringing something different to the table, but both with the same goal in mind: to help people, to save lives, and to inspire others to rise up when the world needed them most. In that moment, I realized that heroism was never about being perfect. It wasn't about knowing all the answers or never feeling scared. It was about showing up, even when you weren't sure what was going to happen. It was about the courage to take the first step, even if it meant leading others into the unknown. Liam's journey was far from over. It was just beginning. And with every challenge he faced, he would continue to grow, continue to inspire, and continue to remind us all that heroism was within each of us if we just believed. It had been years since Liam had taken his first steps into the world of emergency response, years since he had been mentored by Emily, and years since he had become a hero in his own right. Now, as a seasoned leader in the field, Liam found himself leading another mission that would be unlike any he had ever faced before. The stakes were higher, the danger more imminent, and the outcome uncertain. A powerful storm had struck a remote village, destroying buildings, wiping out entire sections of infrastructure, and leaving countless people trapped under rubble. The local authorities were overwhelmed, and the world had yet to send the help needed. Liam had been called in, alongside his team, to assess the damage and provide emergency care. He was the one they looked to for leadership. But this time, there was a twist. As the team navigated through the wreckage, Emily, who had always been by his side, suddenly disappeared from view. They had been separated in the chaos of the storm's aftermath. Liam's heart dropped as he scanned the debris, calling her name. Emily, where are you? His voice cracked under the weight of the panic creeping in. There was no answer. The storm raged on and time was slipping away. Liam's team had to keep moving, and yet he couldn't leave without her. He fought back the growing sense of dread in his chest, telling himself that she was fine, that she would emerge any moment with her usual calm and reassuring presence. But the hours passed. The storm didn't relent, and the search for Emily turned desperate. Liam's thoughts were racing. Could she have been caught in the rubble? What if she was seriously hurt? What if she didn't make it? As dusk began to fall, Liam found himself standing over a pile of debris that once had been a house, a school, a place of life. His team had already combed through most of the wreckage, but something in his gut told him that Emily might be there, somewhere under the ruins, waiting for help, just like the countless others they had saved in the past. Liam, a voice called, breaking him from his thoughts. It was one of his team members, panting from exhaustion. We've got something. We think we found Emily. Liam's heart skipped a beat, and he sprinted toward the source of the voice, his legs heavy with the weight of uncertainty. He rounded the corner and saw them, his team huddled around the wreckage. And there, buried under a pile of wooden beams and bricks, was Emily's lifeless body. The world seemed to stop for a moment. No, 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 Liam whispered, his voice barely audible as he rushed forward. He pushed through the debris, his hands trembling, desperately searching for any sign of life. He found her wrist first. The cold skin felt like ice against his fingers. Tears blurred his vision, but he didn't stop. He continued to dig, his breath shallow, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, as if by some miracle, her eyes fluttered open. "Emily," Liam gasped, his voice breaking. "Emily, please. Stay with me. Stay with us." Her lips parted, and though her voice was weak, it carried the strength that had always defined her. "Liam, you've always been ready. Always ready to lead. Remember that. You're the hero now. You are the one who will make a difference." Liam didn't know what to say. He was overwhelmed with relief, with sorrow, with love and fear all at once. But he knew what he had to do. He couldn't let her go. With trembling hands, he lifted her from the rubble, carrying her in his arms as though he was holding his own heart. He didn't know if she would survive, but he wasn't going to leave her behind. Not after everything they had been through. Not after everything she had done for him. And for the world. "I'm not going to leave you, Emily," he promised, his voice a whisper of resolve. "You taught me how to be brave. Now let me return the favor." But as Liam carried her through the debris, there was a growing weight in his chest. He could feel the life slipping from her. Emily's breathing became shallow, her body cold against his chest. She was fading. I'm proud of you, Liam," she whispered weakly, the words barely making it past her lips. You've become the hero. I always knew you were." Tears streamed down Liam's face as he ran toward the makeshift medical tent that had been set up on the outskirts of the village. He shouted for help, but deep down, he knew the truth. Emily had given everything. She had been the light, the guide, and now that light was dimming. By the time they reached the tent, it was too late. Emily was gone. The weeks that followed were a blur of grief, recovery, and reflection. Liam stayed on the front lines, leading the rescue efforts and helping the survivors rebuild. But each night, as the stars blanketed the sky, he found himself haunted by Emily's final words. "You are the hero now." He had been ready to follow her, to learn from her, to always have her by his side. But now he understood. Emily's legacy wasn't just about her acts of heroism. It was about the fire she sparked in others. It was about him, and every other person she had inspired. As the months passed, Liam became not only a symbol of hope in the aftermath of the storm, but a beacon of the legacy she had passed down to him. He had embraced his role, not because he was the perfect hero, but because he was willing to continue the fight, even when the world seemed to crumble. And as he stood on the edge of the rebuilt village, looking out over the people whose lives they had saved, he knew. This was the true meaning of heroism. It was never about fame or recognition. It was about never giving up, no matter the cost. The storm had passed, but Liam's journey had only just begun. And though Emily was gone, her spirit, her strength would continue to guide him, to lead him, to remind him that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who don't give up, even when the end feels near.